lot of what it called exporters. So the exporters are responsible for grabbing an information. So for example, we have the exporter, which is responsible for getting like CPU and memory from the node. Yeah. If you mean events, like you mean by, for example, RabbitMQ or SQS thing, like to measure the queue size, for example, or measuring like the throughput of the queue in this term. So yes, it does support. You can add an exporter for RabbitMQ, for Kafka, for SQS, and then you can track like the queue size. You can track like the amount of events it's receiving, the amount of events it's consuming, or the amount of for example, data we are rejecting, like a queue which is have limited size, and if it goes beyond that, we start rejecting. So we can also measure like the amount of data we are rejecting, the error rate, and things like that. Don't know if that answers your question.
Great. And also Angelo says, hi everyone. Hi Angelo, great to have you here too. Yeah, and we can see that this goes much beyond just knowing how much it's just using the resources of the machine. There's a classical example that always uses e-commerce in the Black Friday day, how it scales and how it behaves on the higher demand, and how it scales, and how do you keep track of everything to not fail. And here's where it comes all together with the tools, with the traceability, with the metrics, with the logs, and having dashboards and also alerts to alert the team if needed for something, not only on the Black Friday, but and it depends on the service that you're handling. You just put an example that's absolutely gold. In the AI era, using AI APIs like crazy, it can just burn your tokens budgets in much less time that it would be. So, and also Angelo is just bringing his first question here. If does OpenTelemetry impact on performance?
Yeah, that's a very good point. In terms of the application itself, it doesn't affect the performance at all. It's actually an SDK, a library that you put in an application, so it runs alongside with your application. So in this case, like there is basically no performance impact at all. In the past, we used to have like a problem. I don't know if you guys have ever used Prometheus, but Prometheus is a standard like for quite a long time, which is like a time series database for metrics. And Prometheus normally they run out in a sidecar of your app. They used to run on a sidecar in your application just to scrape, and normally this Prometheus running on the sidecar might impact the performance because they are also competing for the same CPU and memory resources of your application. In the case of the OpenTelemetry, it doesn't compete with any resources because you can run the collector outside. You can run the collector, for example, if you can even run the collector in the cloud, and then you just need to configure your application to call the API, the OpenTelemetry API, and send the data there. So normally it doesn't affect the performance at all, which is like make things like much simpler than we did in the past. Of course, if you still put your OpenTelemetry collector in the same in the same host, probably OpenTelemetry also consumes a lot of memory and CPU, so it might end up concurring with your application, and then of course affect the performance. but running outside, it doesn't.
Yeah, the way OpenTelemetry and other frameworks like Micrometer, they handle these metrics seems to be less intrusive compared to the old Prometheus style, especially because Prometheus depends on him having these metrics implemented on your code to track it. Uh, and of course, with these frameworks, if you need a specific data, you need to log it there. But you can get a lot much more from the logs itself instead of having to build metrics by it all. So I would say that it's kind of revolution that we have with OpenTelemetry, and it kind of automates a lot what you need to know about the overall health of our system, not only logs, not only hardware, and the traceability. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we do have some more comments here. So Ricardo Mendes, so Java team turning on. Yeah, here we are. And Dennis also about the events that you were answering before. I mean, like an event, like an error in your app. Can I detect an error and send as an event or alarm? Absolutely. But Thiago is going to answer you.
Yeah, actually, what do you mean by and like in this case like an event? So of course you might need a new guy, which is like the alert manager, which is responsible for grabbing this information and then send for a place that you want, like sending by email, SMS, or other things. Like I would say, the OpenTelemetry itself, it's only for metrics, logs, and traces. But when you have the metrics and the traces, then you can, of course, act on those metrics and act on those using an alert manager on that.
Great.
Interesting. Just a question about that. I use Datadog here in the company, and Datadog is a beast. It's something like huge, incredibly powerful, and of course they use all the stuff like logging, tracing, and everything, and alarms as well, and dashboards, and there is plenty of this. In my day to day here is we see alarms being fired in Slack. So there is a channel here in the Slack that sometimes we have alarm being fired, and then there's people on call to see what's happening. And sometimes it's an alarm that starts because some call is taking more than the biggest time it should be taking, and then it stays like this for 15 minutes, and then it's go down again and say okay, it's recovered. It's so cool how OpenTelemetry can compare to that. It's something that OpenTelemetry can do as well.
In this case, so of course you might need other